File pops open. Dead silence hits the room, and out in the dark, the BAU is listening. Criminal Minds was never just about nailing the bad guys. It was about agents stepping straight into terror, so regular folks made it home alive. Gideon's quiet pain, Hotch's solid grip, and Garcia throwing color against the dark. Then there was Reed, his fragile brain trying to untangle the unthinkable. But by 2026, time has completely reshaped the crew. Few vanished overnight. Others came back. Some grew into legends, making their own lives feel just as heavy as the crimes they solved. Let's reopen the case files on Criminal Minds, tracing the real lives behind those haunted profilers. Jason Gideon was that leader. A profiler with heavy eyes and a quietness that weighed down the room before anyone even found a clue. Mandy Patinkin was 53 when the show launched in 2005. He gave Gideon the weight of someone who could walk straight into a monster's mind and never come back completely clean. Gideon was different. No flashy action hero or loud mouth. He served as the true ethical anchor for the early team. He made the job feel less like playing detective and more like trying to survive the sheer agony of knowing monsters too well. Patinkin carried him with slow, tired pauses. He had this raw empathy that seemed almost too fragile for this work. So when he left, the team lost its soul. Long before joining the unit, Patinkin had carved out a massive name on Broadway and movie screens. He took home a Tony and won hearts playing characters packed with pure grit and deep moral conflict. Years later, Homeland handed him another killer role as Saul Berenson, proving he could dominate a room without ever yelling. In 2026, Mandy Patinkin turns 74. Gideon sticks with us because Patinkin made smarts feel painful, empathy feel dangerous, and leadership feel like the heavy price of caring. Enter David Rossi, the seasoned pro who walks back into the office like a man stepping into room crowded with old ghosts. Joe Mantegna was 60 when he stepped in back in 2007, giving Rossi an entirely different edge than Gideon. He was warmer up front, but tired deep down. Knowing firsthand that being a veteran doesn't shield you from devastating grief, Rossi mattered because he brought deep history to the squad. The guy had nothing left to prove. He literally helped design the department, and his return felt like settling old scores written in the back of his mind. Mantegna brought this cool, old-school confidence to the role. But deep down, he was a guy who knew loss, obsession, and the cost of staring at monsters for 30 years. Away from the set, Mantegna was already a powerhouse across theater, movies, and TV. That includes a Tony Award on Broadway and voicing the iconic Fat Tony on The Simpsons. In 2026, Mantegna turns 79. Rossi sticks around because Mantegna made survival feel real and hard-earned. He made living look like a quiet choice to keep heading back into the shadows. Then there's Hotch, the man with that stone-cold gaze. Short orders, and a heavy silence that absorbed everyone's panic without ever flinching. Thomas Gibson was 43 when the series kicked off in 2005. He brought a strict discipline that made the team feel like a fortress during their darkest cases. Hotch was vital, because he wasn't just some friendly boss. He was pure focus under fire, keeping his deep grief locked behind a bench, acting as the anchor when everyone else wanted to scream. That tight restraint was his trademark. A hard pause before an order, a quick look that forced his people to instantly lock in. He proved leading isn't about being bulletproof. It's about keeping your own terror from toxic infecting the agents next to you. Gibson was already a TV star before the show, famously co-starring in Dharma and Greg. But Hotch became his absolute career-defining role. When he left, the whole atmosphere of the series shifted dramatically. Longtime fans felt like a major pillar of the house had been ripped out. 2026, Gibson turned 64. Hotch sticks with us, because Gibson made power feel lonely, pain feel quiet, and leadership feel like standing tall while the sky falls. Derek Morgan is the door kicker with a massive heart. charging headfirst into danger like fear had personally offended his family. 5. Shemar Moore was 35 when the pilot aired in 2005, bringing a raw physical force that kept the team safe out on the streets. But he mattered because that strength was never just about muscle. Behind that smooth, charming exterior and that action hero vibe was a guy shaped by survival and trauma. Someone working hard to stay open when life gave him every reason to shut down. That bond with Garcia was easily the show's best lifeline. Way more than just playful banter. It reminded us that even people hunting monsters all day still need real warmth, laughs, and a place to call home. Moore was already famous from daytime television, but Criminal Minds made him a massive primetime star. Later, SWAT gave him another huge action series. By 2026, Shemar Moore is 56. His character, Derek Morgan, sticks with us because Moore made toughness feel protective, pain feel survivable, and kindness feel like the only thing keeping the BAU from sinking completely into the dark. Emily Prentice is the profiler who walks right into danger with real elegance, dry humor, and the vibe of someone who has already survived way more than she ever plans to explain. Paget Brewster was 37 when she joined the cast in 2006, and she gave Prentice this deep, layered strength that turned her into one of the show's most beloved figures. Prentice really mattered because she was never written as just the token tough woman on the team. She was incredibly smart, highly guarded, but deeply compassionate, carrying heavy secrets without letting them make her cold. Storyline became one of the most emotional on the show, full of secrets, sacrifice, fake deaths, and returns. Yet Brewster played that pain with incredible restraint, completely skipping the melodrama. That is exactly why viewers trusted her. She made surviving look totally professional on the outside, but deeply human underneath. Off-screen, Brewster's incredible range in comedy, drama, and voice acting helped give her character a sharp, perfect timing that made every dry line land like armor polished by years of experience. By 2026, Paget Brewster is 57. Prentice still stands tall because Brewster made leadership feel remarkably calm, feminine, deeply wounded, yet strong enough to literally rise from the dead without losing her warmth. Penelope Garcia is the brightest screen in the darkest room. She turned keyboards, bright colors, and genuine kindness into the BAU's emotional oxygen. Kirsten Vangsness was 33 when the show launched back in 2005, making Garcia way more than just a typical tech genius. Garcia mattered because she absolutely refused to let the work make her numb. While others walked bloody crime scenes and talked to killers, she sat behind computer screens, facing raw horror in data, images, and audio. Yet she still chose warmth. Her wild outfits, her endless jokes, that sweet banter with Morgan, and her intense loyalty were never just decoration. They were her resistance. Vangsness played her as deep empathy with a backbone. Someone soft enough to care, but tough enough to keep caring even when the world kept proving how incredibly cruel it could be. Over the years, she got creatively involved with the show, helping write and shape her character's voice. By 2026, Kirsten Vangsness, is 54. Garcia endures because Vangsness made kindness feel tactical, softness feel brave, and bright colors feel like a survival instinct in a world built on fear. Meanwhile, Jennifer J. Giroux is the calm voice delivering impossible news. She is the woman who carried grief so quietly that people constantly mistook her inner strength for ease. Ajay Cook was 27 when it started in 2005, and she gave JJ a steady warmth that slowly grew into one of the show's most resilient portraits. JJ mattered because her evolution felt entirely earned. She started as the liaison, managing grieving families, local police, and intense media pressure, and the deep emotional reality behind each case, eventually growing into a field profiler, strong enough to stand on the front lines without losing her essential compassion. Cook handled that transition with beautiful restraint. JJ did not grow cold because she stopped feeling. She got stronger by pushing forward through fear, motherhood, and trauma, an intense loss living in her chest. Fans watched her survive massive cast shakeups, extreme personal danger, and the kind of emotional wounds that never truly heal. By 2026, Cook is 48. 4. Jennifer Giroux endures because Cook made quiet strength feel real, and motherly love feel incredibly fierce, and made surviving feel like showing up for work, even when the pain follows you home. Then there is Alex Blake, the linguist who joins the BAU with a quiet authority, analyzing words like other profilers analyze physical wounds. Jean Triplehorn was 49 when she joined Criminal Minds in the early 2010s, bringing Blake a mature, steady presence that helped guide the team through massive shifts. Blake mattered because she did not arrive needing attention. She showed up with massive experience, calm restraint, and the absolute calm of someone who knew that language always reveals the exact truths people work hardest to hide. Her special gift was never loud, but it was incredibly intimate. Phrase, a pattern, a simple choice of words. They all become a doorway into trauma, motive, and fear. Triplehorn played her with sharp intelligence and compassion. She gave Blake a soft edge shaped by grief, not innocence. Under all that professionalism lay a deep sadness. She was a woman who knew loss too well to ever romanticize the job. Outside the BAU, Triplehorn had built a highly respected career in television and film. Roles in Basic Instinct, The Firm, and Big Love, she brought instant gravity. In 2026, Jean Triplehorn turns 63. Alex Blake endures. Triplehorn made language feel emotional, restraint feel incredibly powerful, and quiet grief feel like its own form of expertise. Dr. Tara Lewis is a psychologist who somehow studies absolute terror without letting it harden her. Her calm makes the ugliest truth feel survivable. Aisha Tyler was 45 when she joined Criminal Minds, bringing a steady intelligence that truly widened the BAU's emotional range. Tara mattered because she knew one thing: the mind is almost always the first crime scene. Before evidence is even visible, before violence touches the physical body, there are quiet patterns, fractures, and dark fantasies that reveal what people are truly capable of. Tyler played her with perfect balance, warm but never naive, direct but never cruel, and entirely confident without dominating. She felt like the exact colleague you would want near you when a case suddenly stopped making sense, and everyone desperately needed someone who could think clearly without completely shutting down emotionally. Outside the BAU, Tyler's career has fluidly moved through acting, directing, hosting, comedy, and public speaking. That versatility made her screen presence fit Tara beautifully. In 2026, Aisha Tyler turns 56. Tara Lewis endures because Tyler made expertise feel humane and psychology feel urgent, and made steadiness feel like one of the BAU's quietest forms of courage. Luke Alves was the new guy, stepping into a team still aching from heavy losses, earning trust without ever trying to replace anyone. Adam Rodriguez was 41 when he joined the show, giving Luke a deeply grounded warmth right beneath his tactical confidence. Luke mattered because he arrived at an incredibly sensitive moment in the BAU's history. Fans were already deeply bonded with the original team, making every new face a risky comparison. But Rodriguez did not play him as some cheap substitute. Instead, he was a true professional with real humility, patience, and his own strong moral center. Luke brought massive field strength, deep experience from the fugitive task force, and a quiet loyalty that made him feel less like an outsider and more like family. His bond with the team grew through real action rather than speeches, making his place feel entirely earned. Rodriguez had already built a solid name in major crime dramas like CSI Miami, giving him easy credibility on high-stakes TV. 2026, Adam Rodriguez turns 51. Luke Alves endures because Rodriguez made the transition feel deeply respectful, made loyalty feel patient, and showed a new beginning was possible in a family shaped by loss. Matt Simmons, the agent who brings his family directly into the BAU. He is a man whose real courage is measured by what he faces outside and what he returns home to protect. Fawn. Daniel Henney was 36 when he joined this universe. Starting in Beyond Borders before moving on to the main team, he gave Simmons a beautifully calm, grounded presence that felt entirely different from the agency's more haunted figures. Fawn. Simmons mattered because his life was never hidden behind the job. Marriage, kids, and ordinary love followed him to work, making every single case feel so much heavier. Then, when he chased danger, we knew a warm home was waiting for him. And that simple fact made bravery feel real. Henney played him with quiet confidence, the kind of steadiness that never needs to announce itself to be trusted. Outside the BAU, his entire career has been international, spanning American TV, Korean cinema, and massive global projects, giving Simmons a much broader screen presence. In 2026, Daniel Henney turns 47. Farm. Matt Simmons endures because Henney made bravery feel domestic and steady, rooted in a promise that darkness would never steal a father from his family. L. Greenaway was the original BAU agent, whose sharp confidence slowly revealed a warning. This job never leaves people untouched. Lola Glaudini was 34 when the show started in 2005, Fawn, and she gave Elle a sharp edge, making the early team feel tougher, more volatile, and far more vulnerable than they seemed. Elle mattered because her story proved profiling was not some glamorous chess match between genius and evil. It was corrosive. She was tough, capable, and completely dedicated in the field. But the violence she absorbed left scars that her team just could not patch up. Fawn. Lola Glaudini played that breakdown with raw anger and pain right on the surface. Fawn. Making Elle's spiral feel less like a cheap twist and more like a real person breaking under pressure. She left early, but it hit hard. It proved the agency could lose its people emotionally long before losing them physically. After the show, Glaudini kept working steadily in TV and film, never getting boxed into just one role. 2026, Lola Glaudini turns 55. Elle Greenaway sticks with us because Glaudini made the damage feel real, courage feel shaky, and survival feel totally uncertain. Stephen Walker brought a calm, steady presence to the team, defined by quiet professionalism, the kind of agent who made competence look effortless instead of dramatic. Gupton was 45 when he joined the show, giving Walker a grounded weight. His run felt brief but deeply meaningful. He mattered because he represented structure. He was steady, poised, and deeply professional. Fun. The kind of guy who could walk into a boiling room and instantly cool it down without seeking attention. 4. In a world packed with trauma and explosive personalities, that kind of quiet grit was incredibly valuable. Upton played him with pure integrity, zero ego. That is why his short time on screen still feels so bittersweet for the fans. Farn. He felt like a character we needed to see more of, someone whose decency deserved way more time on screen. Farn. Outside the show, Gupton built a highly respected career across television and theater, regularly bringing that same, intense, quiet focus to his roles. In 2026, Damon Gupton turns 53. Walker endures because Gupton made professionalism feel deeply human and decency feel strong, turning his brief story into a missed opportunity that the team barely had time to mourn. Agent Kate Callahan brought motherly instincts, heavy field experience, and a real fear of losing her home into the agency's dark gears. Farn. Jennifer Love Hewitt was 35 when she came aboard, giving Kate a warmth that made her feel instantly human among a crew defined by constant trauma. Pattered, because her entire storyline tied this dark work directly to family. She was sharp and highly experienced, but she never hid her heart. It belonged to her family and the future she fought to protect. That made her cases feel deeply personal. Hewitt played Kate as a tough agent who never turned cold, protective without being fragile, and experienced enough to know that danger does not always wait outside your front door. Her run was brief, but it captured a woman actively choosing her life, before the job could consume her entirely. Outside the show, Hewitt was already a massive star, moving from teen idol to serious dramatic roles in Party of Five, If I Know What You Did Last Summer, Ghost Whisperer, and later 911. In 2026, Jennifer Love Hewitt turns 47. Kate endures because Hewitt made choosing family look strong, not like a step back, reminding us that survival sometimes means walking away before the darkness wins. Jordan Todd is the replacement, Fam, who walked into a grieving room at the worst possible time, trying to be professional while everyone else mourned. Fawn. Meta Golding was in her late 30s when she joined the series, Farn, giving Jordan a controlled grace that made her far more sympathetic than her tough situation should have allowed. Jordan mattered because she did not fail. She was just fighting the heavy emotional shadow of her predecessor. Working as a media liaison, Farman, she managed grieving families and intense public pressure, Farm, speaking the heavy language of tragedy while knowing some people just saw her as an unwanted interruption. Golding played that struggle beautifully, letting Jordan feel capable, isolated, and quietly brave. Her story shows that fitting in is not just about talent. Sometimes it is all about timing, and timing can be brutal. After her run, Golding kept booking roles in movies and TV, including major franchise work that proved her range. 2026, Meta Golding turns 55. Jordan endures because Golding made being a replacement feel painful, lonely, and deeply brave. Farman. Ashley Seaver is the young recruit whose baggage walks into the room before she does. Farn. Because being the daughter of a serial killer makes the agency's darkness hit close to home, painfully personal. Rachel Nichols was 30 when she joined Criminal Minds, giving Seaver a cautious intelligence that made her feel way more complex than just another rookie. Farm. Seaver mattered because she joined the team with trauma already tied to her name. For her, evil was not just some case study, it was her family history, something that lived close enough to shape how people judged her before she even spoke. Fun. Nichols played her with real restraint, letting Seaver seem watchful instead of naive. Farm. She was hungry to prove herself, but careful not to let that unwanted bloodline define her. For her run on the show was short, leaving fans feeling like her story was cut off. This was a character built on pain who could have gone much deeper given more time. Nichols kept working steadily in movies and TV, often taking on intense, heavy physical roles. In 2026, Rachel Nichols turns 46. Ashley Seaver still stands out because Nichols made that inherited darkness feel intensely personal, unresolved, and brave enough to hunt for purpose inside the exact world that feared her. Aaron Strauss is that polished boss who feels like a roadblock at first, but slowly shows the brutal human cost of running a high-pressure system. Fan. Bellamy Young was in her late 30s when she first showed up on Criminal Minds, and she gave Strauss a razor-sharp control that made all the political drama feel incredibly real. Strauss mattered because she represented everything the team despised: red tape, tight budgets, and constant oversight, reputation, and the cold reality of how much slack these heroes get before the brass reels them in. She looks like a pure villain at first, but the show slowly lets her armor crack. Fawn. Underneath that perfect uniform is addiction, fear, and a lonely woman just trying to survive a job that hollows her out from the inside. Young pulled off that shift brilliantly, turning Strauss into one of the most tragic figures on the show. Later, she hit it big in Scandal, once again bringing that perfect mix of poise and inner pain to a political drama. In 2026, Bellamy Young turns 56. Aaron Strauss stays with us because Young made bureaucracy look wounded, power look fragile, and showed how easily control can slip away while the whole world is staring. Haley Hotner is that grounding voice reminding us the darkness follows you home. Meredith Monroe was in her mid-30s when she started on Criminal Minds, bringing a raw realism that made Hotch's life outside the office feel incredibly fragile. Haley mattered because she showed the absolute brutal cost of a job she never even signed up for. She put up with missed dinners, constant danger, and the bitter truth that love alone could not compete with a calling, fought, that kept dragging her husband into other people's worst nightmares. Fall. Monroe didn't play her as bitter or petty. She made Haley a mother fighting to protect her kid, her sanity, and her life from getting caught in the crossfire. That is why her fate became one of the show's deepest, most permanent wounds. It wasn't some cheap plot twist. It was brutal proof that the monsters could actually reach your home. After leaving, Monroe kept working steadily on TV, bringing that same authentic warmth to every part. In 2026, Meredith Monroe turns 57. Farman. Haley Hotner stays with us because Monroe made that damage feel personal, family feel fragile, and turned loss into a heavy silence that no behavioral profile could ever fix. Farn. Kevin Lynch was the dorky tech guy who gave Garcia a shot at real love amidst all the horror. Nicholas Brendan was in his late 30s when he joined the cast, bringing a nervous, sweet charm to Kevin that made their romance feel messy and real instead of TV perfect. Fawn. Kevin mattered because he was not part of the heavy field work. He lived in her world of screens, code, and late-night strain, offering someone who truly got her genius while giving her a safe place to land. Fawn. Their bond gave the show some serious breathing room, proving that people dealing with absolute horror every day still deserve love, laughs, and someone who sees them for who they are. And get this, Fawn. Brendan was already famous from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that nostalgia brought its own heavy pop culture vibe to his character. But his life after those major roles got messy, filled with public struggles and real legal trouble, creating a harsh contrast between his lovable on-screen presence and his chaotic personal life. In 2026, Nicholas Brendan turns 55. Foreign. Kevin Lynch endures because Brendan made dorky love feel completely genuine, proving that bright on-screen moments often run side by side with very dark real-life chapters. Will LaMontagne Jr. is the quiet guy standing just outside the BAU storm, a husband whose steady love actually gives JJ something worth surviving for. Fawn. Josh Stewart was in his early 30s when he joined Criminal Minds, bringing a grounded patience that made Will one of the most vital civilian anchors on the show. Fattered, because he represented real life far beyond those case files. Things like marriage, kids waiting, and a deep devotion that never needed heroic speeches to prove itself. He knew just enough about JJ's world to fear it, but not enough to grow numb, making his presence feel deeply human. Fawn. Stewart played him with restraint, letting Will's love show through steady presence rather than drama. Whenever the BAU faced real danger, Will reminded viewers that the team's mission was never abstract, fought so people could go home to someone. And for JJ, that someone was always him. Stewart's career often leaned into tough, grounded roles across crime dramas and horror, giving Will a quiet grit right beneath his gentle side. In 2026, Josh Stewart turns 49. Will LaMontagne Jr. endures because Stewart made ordinary love feel brave, patient, and tough enough to stand near the pitch darkness without ever joining it. George Foyt, the Reaper, was the ordinary-looking monster who made the BAU feel unsafe inside their own story. See, Thomas Howell was in his early 40s when he took the role, giving Foyt a chilling calm that turned him into one of the most unforgettable villains on Criminal Minds. Foyt mattered because he didn't need theatrical madness to terrify anyone. He hid behind pure normality, patience, and the blank human face you'd pass without remembering, which made him far worse. Howell played him as a predator playing the long game with fear, someone who didn't just kill, but completely invaded lives, waited, studied, and shattered the thin line between professional danger and personal safety. His arc left one of the show's deepest scars, especially through the trauma inflicted on Hotch and Haley, and viewers still remember it because it brought the BAU's work way too close to home. Fawn. Howell was known for earlier movie roles in the 1980s, but Foyt gave him a dark television legacy that proved his range. 2026 C. Thomas Howell turned 60. Fawn. The Reaper endures because Howell made evil feel patient, plain-faced, and scary enough to make even the elite profilers look completely vulnerable. Everett Lynch, the Chameleon, was a late-era predator who turned identity into a weapon and vanishing into a true art form. Farn. Michael Mosley was around 40 when he first stepped into the role, giving Lynch a slick calm that felt unnervingly modern. Lynch mattered because his terror came straight from pure instability. He could blend, shift, charm, and vanish, returning with a new face while using anonymity for protection and manipulation as camouflage. Fawn. In a show built entirely on patterns, he was terrifying because he knew exactly how to escape them. Ford. Mosley played him with a polite menace, the kind of cold violence that arrives through a person who never needs to shout. His arc pushed the BAU into a brand new fear, not just finding a killer, but pinning down a man who kept shifting shapes. Mosley's deep career in TV drama gave him the perfect control for a villain who thrives on quiet restraint instead of theatrical spectacle. In 2026, Michael Mosley turns 48. Everett Lynch endures because Mosley made identity feel unstable, charm feel predatory, foreign, and made the modern monster feel like someone who could vanish before your eyes while standing right in front of you. Peter Lewis, known as Mr. Scratch, is the absolute nightmare that turns the mind against itself. Farn. He is a villain who knows fear is most powerful when victims cannot even trust their own senses. Fawn. Bodie Elfman was in his mid-40s when he became one of the most unsettling modern threats on criminal minds. Fawn. And he played Mr. Scratch with a creepy, quiet calm that made the character feel less like a man, farm and more like a dark suggestion planted in your head. Mr. Scratch mattered because his violence was psychological first. He used drugs, manipulation, hallucinations, and old trauma to force people to see what would break them, turning the mind into the crime scene. That made him incredibly dangerous for a team built entirely on logic and cold observation. How do you profile someone who makes perception itself completely unreliable? Elfman brought a strange theatrical menace to the role, a soft voice, an unsettling smile, and the vibe of a performer genuinely enjoying how fear can rewrite reality. His broader career includes offbeat, dramatic, and genre roles that made this kind of eerie presence feel completely natural. 2026, Bodie Elfman turns 57. Mr. Scratch endures fuzz. Elfman made fear feel intimate, turned hallucinations into weapons, and made the human mind feel like the most dangerous room of all. Cat Adams is an assassin with a smile like a locked door. She made danger feel personal, turning obsession into a game only she knew how to play. Fun. Aubrey Plaza was in her early 30s when she joined Criminal Minds, bringing a cold sparkle to Cat that made every scene with Reed feel totally unpredictable. Cat mattered because she was never just another unsub waiting to get caught. She was pure strategy, seduction, and threat, all braided so tight that even a simple chat felt dangerous. Plaza played her with a creepy restraint, letting charm and menace share the same breath. That is why her dynamic with Reed stuck with us. It was more than fear, it was psychological closeness used as a weapon. That is the kind of violation that leaves a mark without physical force. Away from Criminal Minds, Plaza built a huge career in comedy, independent, films, and acclaimed dramas, proving she can shift from deadpan comedy to pure darkness with total ease. In 2026, Aubrey Plaza turns 42, yet Cat Adams endures. Plaza made intelligence feel seductive, cruelty feel playful, and psychological danger feel like someone leaning closer instead, striking first. Dr. Spencer Reed is the genius with the soft voice, restless hands, and eyes that understand everything except how to stop the world from hurting him. 5. Matthew Gray Gubler was 25 when Criminal Minds started in 2005, turning Reed into the team's most fragile miracle. Reed mattered because his power was never physical. It was memory, patterns, language, speed, and a mind so bright it only made his loneliness sharper. Yet what fans loved most was not just his intelligence but his innocence, the fragile part of him that stayed tender in a job built to punish tenderness. Throughout the series, Reed survived addiction, grief, prison, betrayal, and massive loss. And Gubler played every wound with a raw openness that made viewers deeply protective. Off-screen, he became a cult favorite as an actor, director, artist, and creative force with a highly unique voice. 2026, Matthew Gray Gubler turns 46. Spencer Reed endures because Gubler made brilliance feel vulnerable, sensitivity feel heroic, and intelligence feel less like distance from humanity than a desperate attempt to stay connected to it. Listen closely. Now the case file closes. The interrogation room goes dark, the jet grows quiet, and the voices on Garcia's screen fade into memory. But Criminal Minds was never just about the monsters. It was about the people who kept facing them. The profilers who carried fear, grief, loyalty, and loss from case to case, still trying to bring someone home before it was too late. By 2026, the BAU has changed. Past has moved on to new chapters, and some exits still feel like open wounds. Yet the team's legacy remains. In the silence before a profile, in the comfort of a familiar voice, and in the belief that even inside the darkest minds, someone was brave enough to seek the truth. If this look back brought you back to the BAU, stay with Rewind 1960s for more stories about the characters, faces, and television memories that never really leave us.